Hi, it's Jane, and I thought I would work a little bit more on this blanket. It's the romance. Haven't gotten too far on it, so I need to work a little bit more on it. So I thought I would work on it. How is everybody doing? What are you guys working on today? Are you working on your whips? Are you starting new projects? Whatnot. I'm just curious. Um, I was laughing because I was watching one of the TikToks earlier, and it was talking about how the left has canceled Jelly Roll because he ate a booger, and he also partied with Kid Rock and Mike Johnson. And I'm kind of laughing about that because it's not like he voted for Trump. He's a convicted felon. And when you have been convicted, as in you have been sentenced and served time, you cannot vote in the elections. That is one right you lose as a convicted felon. So I just find it rather funny. And the whole thing about him eating a booger, yeah, well, so what? There's a study out there saying that people that eat their own boogers have a healthier immune system. Maybe I should eat my boogers, and that way I wouldn't catch a cold every time I'm around those kids. Nah, I don't think so. But I just think it's funny, things that people do. They're kind of ridiculous. They strike me as funny. I put the fireplace on because I've got my temperature down low in the house. It's about 70, which I can tolerate most of the time. But I was getting a little chilled, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put the fireplace on to warm up this room and not worry about the rest of the house. And the good thing about this type of fireplace, because it's propane controlled, it has a remote, so I can set the temperature of the room that I would like it to be, or the temperature of the fireplace anyway. Once it reaches it, it'll shut off, and then when it cools down enough and it senses that it's cool, it'll come back on, So that's kind of nice. And today we had a little bit of snow, so of course the cats were sitting at the window watching it. They've been a little hesitant about the fire, but curious about the fire. I guess they don't remember when they were first. I've had them a year now. I guess they don't remember when they were first here and they would be up there on the cement part, laying there, getting nice and toasty next to the fire. So I do think that that's rather funny, the way that has worked out with these cats, But yeah, I've been sitting here working on this. I've done filmed a little bit more of the tutorial for the shawl, the spring garden shawl. I told you that I'd filmed it, and then I had gotten some that was not in camera range. So I had to refilm that, and I'm going to go slow with looking at the video to make sure it's correct this time. Just because I don't want to have to redo it again, that kind of thing. But We're supposed to get some bad weather, I guess, this weekend or next weekend. Just in time for, Thanksgiving. Do you guys have any special Thanksgiving plans? I don't have any as yet. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Kind of just going to play it by ear this year. Not too worried. As my son was telling me, we were talking earlier today, and he goes, yeah, I figure I'll just get one of those turkey breasts after Thanksgiving. Because, they always go down in price. And that's what he's thinking, is he'll just get a turkey breast after Thanksgiving. Cook that for his Thanksgiving. So we were kind of laughing about that. And, he was telling me that sumac has taken over his yard. It's killed out a lot of the stuff that's in the yard. And he's like, I've got to get rid of it, and I'm tired of playing with it. And I said, yeah, well, hopefully you're not allergic to it. And he said, no, it just, after playing with it and dealing with it for a little while, it makes me a little bit itchy. It's not like my brother. His twin brother would send him to the hospital, I'm sure, if he was out there. Poison ivy is pretty bad for him, so. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. And we were kind of laughing about that in the yard and everything, and, telling him about this whole thing and about the deposition, and talking with them about how I wasn't given a choice on the types of grasses that were put up in this back behind the house, behind the retaining wall. Because my preference would have been something the bees would be attracted to, which would be the clover and or creeping red thyme. And both of those are easy to maintain. You don't really have to do a lot. And because it's the way the steep of that back is with the retaining wall, you can't mow it, you can't weed eat it, you can't do anything anyway. And the fellow that had sprayed back there had stated that I had picked out that I wanted natural grasses and that kind of thing, and, the barnyard grass and all that. And I said no. And something that was very cheap. I said, no, nobody asked me what I wanted. So, that's, that is something that this contractor did a lot of. He would do things on his own. Told you about the things with the ceiling fans. I had wanted ceiling fans in the craft room. Just because knowing that it was considered a sunroom with all those windows, in the summer it would be a little warmer than the rest of the house, which doesn't really sit in any of the sun. And my ceiling fans didn't get put in. So, and of course, then I decided, well, we'll just put one in my bedroom, and then we would put the other one in the office where I sometimes work to do things. So, that's kind of what we did instead, because he's like, well, there's 2 feet of insulation up there now. And it was blown in insulation. It wasn't sheets that were laid in that kind of thing. So it'll be a little harder for an electrician to get up there and be in there and, move through it. So, and I wasn't happy about that because that is not what we had talked about when we were talking about the house and the insulation and that kind of stuff. But sometimes you don't get what you want, so just have to deal with it, right? But, yeah, those are some of the things. My son and I were talking about discussing that kind of thing. And, he was laughing because he had gone to get his oil change done. And while he was getting the oil change done, they came out, with all the things that they needed to add on. They do that everywhere. It doesn't matter where you go. They're wanting to add this and add this and add that. And he was like, well, you can add everything but that last one. Because he didn't quite have the funds to take care of that today. And, so he said it was rather interesting. Because the person, was like, well, these are the things that are recommended. He said, yeah, I understand that, but the other one, can be done at a later date. It's not something that has to be done right now. I can do it next week. And she's, the gal's like, yeah, that's true. It's not that big a deal. And I guess he'd have gone to some place named Kiki's for some work. And, he had just stopped in there that day. He was trying to decide where to go to get his oil changed, where to make an appointment for his oil change. So he decided to stop there. And the gal, he said, I drove by and there was nobody out here. And he thought, fantastic. So he drove in, and of course they could get him in right away for his oil change. And he was telling him, he goes, I'm surprised you weren't swamped, with it being the week before Thanksgiving. And she said, normally we are, but right now we're just in a lull period. She said, it'll probably pick up starting tomorrow. That's normally when it does. But she said, come Monday, they'll be swamped and they'll have to turn people away. So, and it's a place where they normally just do tire changes, oil changes, and just some minor repairs. They don't do a whole lot of engine work, that kind of thing. So, and then my son and I were talking about the cost of air filters. Why does an air filter cost, when you get it at one of those places, it costs $40. Yet if you go to the auto shop, it costs $10 to $15. That kind of thing. So we were, kind of joking around about that. Yeah, well, that's their way to make a few dollars. And they're allowed to do that, so they get to. Earlier this morning, I'd opened up the windows, and like I said, it was snowing a little bit here and there. Nothing stuck. So, but all of a sudden I see Ronan, he jumps up in the window, and he's just a-talking away. So I kind of look out there, and I see there's a deer right outside the window, just kind of looking at him like, what are you doing there? And what I find funny is the way the deer come up in the front yard, side yard, backyard. Doesn't matter. They're anywhere and everywhere. But Ronan was having a good old time talking to that deer. He just couldn't understand why he was out there in the yard, that kind of thing. Had to change the battery. So anyway, Ronan had a good time, talking with the deer, that kind of thing. So now, I've been thinking about this blanket because I'm going to add one more. This is the last row of this color, and then I will add in a new color. And then I'll add in this last little row of the white. And once I get that white in, I'm going to start the blanket that is in the greens. And that is a blanket that I'm going to be using a couple of different stitches out of a stitch book just to get an idea of how they work together, that kind of thing. And it gives me an opportunity to try some of the stitches that I wanted to try to add into the blanket, and we'll just see how they go. Maybe some fudging along the way, but you know, we'll get through it, and I'll take you along on that journey. It is going to be something that I am going to film. I will show you the process, but I am also going to film it as a tutorial because this is what I am going to consider a boggy blanket for the Boggy Creek blanket drive. So I am starting to work on that, starting in my mind plotting what I'm going to do. And I'll show you that sequence and what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, how I'm thinking of doing it and building it. I do not have soft crochet software that can build the stitches the way that I want to. So I'm kind of drawing them out on some graph paper just to see how it comes along and how it's looking. And yeah, we'll just kind of go from there and see how it works. And of course, you know, my whole thing is, when in doubt, you add a stitch or take a stitch out, fudge it. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And, I know there are a lot of people that get really caught up in the number of stitches in a row. I do not, because I know for most people, one, they cannot recognize that there is a difference in the pattern or in the way that it is done. That is just the way that I do, because since I do a lot of things, make them up on the fly, I don't really worry about the way that it comes out, as long as it looks good. And most people who are not crocheters have no idea, you know, that it makes a difference or not. And most of the time, you can work it out to where you do have even numbers of stitches per side on a blanket if you are doing it rectangle or even, well, not rectangle. You'd have so many on the top, so many on the bottom, more on the sides. But most of the time you can work it out to where it works out just fine. And that's just my philosophy. It's not worth getting all worked up about. And I know some of you are perfectionists. And if it is something that is drives you nuts, well, then by all means you can work it out for yourself. But for the most part, the stitch counts will be pretty much right on. But every once in a while something happens, whether, you know, I skipped an extra stitch or not. I don't always pull out, you know, rip out, frog it, because I just don't think it's going to make that big a difference. Now, there are times where I will mark it with a stitch marker to let me know that I need to add an extra stitch somewhere so that the stitches do normalize, reach out the same number for those two sides, opposite sides. And there are ways to add that in that most people just would not even know that you've done it. Like I said, I know there's a lot of you that are just perfectionists, that it would drive you nuts. I have a friend that is that way, and she would rip it out several times to get it absolutely correct. By all means, if that's what you need to do, then do it. With the prayer shawl ministry, we've had the school children's drawing their hats again, so we're starting to work on those hats. I think I've got a packet of 4 or 5 hats to do. And of course, they have more hats than they need to be done. But I didn't quite step up to take a whole bunch because I know I have a lot of things that I'm doing that keep me busy, keep me from doing it. So, like I said, I'm not going to worry about it so much that it makes me nuts getting it done. So now I'm ready to add in that new color. And I am going to add in this basic, Premier Basic. It's called Light Blue. Just going to add that color in. If I can find the center. There we go. Nice and easy, right up front. That's what I like about this. And I will tell you, normally I do a slip knot and then I pull that through, that first stitch, and then I chain and work over the tails for a little bit. Of course, this one we do a chain 3 for the beginning of this part of the row. And you split that stitch. So yeah, that's working on those next couple of rows. And then once I've done that, I do move my tails out of the way so I don't have to mess with those. Need to pull some extra out. Pull a little yarn barf out so it works a little bit easier. I know a lot of people don't like doing that, but I do that because it makes it easier for me as I'm starting with this row. But I'll move those tails out of the way and then finish working on this lovely pattern by itself. But anyway, that is the plan. I would imagine I will be starting on this blanket probably Sunday afternoon so that I can get things moving and get things on their way. This blanket has sat here long enough and it needs to be finished, done with, and out of this house. So that is the goal for this one. As far as sewing is going, I am planning some sewing videos. I have not done a whole lot of them. I have one that I have started that I need to work on finishing, and it's basically taking scraps and turning that into something. I've just been doing a lot of other things, and I've also been, lately have been helping with the Operation Christmas Child. Since our church is the drop-off center, I've signed up for a couple of shifts to help with that. So I've been doing that. And that that does take a little bit of a toll because you are constantly working. The way that it works, when people drop off their boxes, we count the boxes. They tell us how many boxes they're bringing in. Normally, these are churches or organizations that have been collecting, quite a few. Sometimes we have 1 or 2 people that come in, bring 5, that kind of thing. But each person that comes in, we do ask them to fill out a form of how many boxes they're bringing in, their name, address, that kind of thing, just to help keep track. And then let's say the person comes in and says they have 75 boxes. We'll have them bring them in, place them on a table. Then when we get to the table, what we will do is we will count all the boxes, and then we will start looking to make sure that they have rubber bands on them. We do not normally open the boxes. That is not part of our job. That is something that is done at the processing centers. And from what I understand, at the processing center, they go through each box 3 times before they are taped shut and for their final shipping. And part of the reason that they do that, I think, is to make sure that no one skipped anything. Because, it's just like when we're proofreading our own sentences or our own piece of work. Sometimes we miss it. We miss something that other people will catch. So that's the basis of that, for that reason, from what I understand. And of course, when they get to the processing center, they double check to make sure that that the box is full, the items are appropriate, that kind of thing. And if they are not full, then they have fillers that they will add to it. Now, what we do when we're at a collection site, which is what we are, once we've counted the boxes, made sure they all have a rubber band on. Some of them, if they tend to be a little bulging, we'll normally put 2 or 3 rubber bands on them. Then we slip them into the big cartons to be shipped to the processing center closest to us, which I believe is Maryland. And I think it's Baltimore. I'm not positive. But, and then we will tape those boxes shut, and then on the box, you write how many boxes you were able to get into those cartons. Normally, you should be able to fit 16 in there, but sometimes when people bring different size shoe boxes or plastic boxes, sometimes you can fit more, sometimes you can fit less. There are a lot of people sometimes that they'll use the boot boxes or work boot boxes, and those will hold a little bit more, they're a little bit bigger. So that changes the way that you're able to put in as many boxes as you can. So we try to configure it in a way where it will work, where there's enough boxes that are, as many boxes as you can fit into the cartons. And then generally, I won't say we pray over each carton, because generally what we do is, before we leave, we will stop and pray over all the cartons that are stacked up and ready to be shipped out. And you can do that individually, or we do it as a group. Just depends on folks and how they want to do it. Whoever's working with you. So, do have another shift on Saturday, which you're going to see this on Saturday. I will be working at the shift, probably finished by the time you watch this. I think I'm going to set it to go in the afternoon. And then I have another shift I've signed up for Monday morning to help, because they didn't have enough people to work the shift, so I've signed up to help with that one as well. And they're looking for some strong men to be able to pack the U-Haul to take them to the big truck. And I don't know if they've got enough guys lined up for that or not, but I hope so. That is a big undertaking. We have suggested that in the past that they ask other churches as well as not just our church members, open it up to other churches if they can provide some strong men to help pack it. Of course, it kind of takes out a lot of those that are working because it's during the day. It's right around, I think, 11 o'clock in the morning to noon or something like that. So that kind of takes out that little bit of time for a lot of folks that they just can't come because they're working. But we do have a couple of young pastors in our church that they will put themselves to work. They usually do, and they will help pack pack the U-Haul at least. Sometimes some of them will follow to the big truck to get those sent out. Sometimes they don't. Just kind of depends, what's going on in their lives and what they have to do in the way of work. Because regardless, being a pastor at a church, there is work to be done. So there's always that option. They do have things that they need to do. And I did learn that one of the young men, he's one of the youth pastors at the church where we have our Christian women's luncheon at. One of the Bible studies I go to, that is her son-in-law. And we were talking about that the other day, and I said to her, Noah's a pretty good kid. And she says, yeah, we kind of like him. And I just kind of laughed about that. I said, you're lucky he's a part of the family. I said, I did not realize, and talking about his wife was your daughter. She said, oh yeah. I said, well, that's cool. And she had said something about, well, how do you know her? And I said, well, sometimes we join them for their Bible studies, and sometimes the two of them are in there. So we get to talk with them and that kind of stuff. And we've talked with them before with Christian women, brought in things, supplies that they could use. Quite a few of us do that kind of things with a lot of the different churches around. And of course, with being with the prayer shawl ministry, you get to know a couple of people around town, that are always in need of things or asking for some help with some certain things. So that's kind of fun to get to do as well. I'm hoping that this cold will soon go away. And I have had a lot of folks have asked me, do I use my CPAP while I have a cold? It depends on how stuffed up I am. Most of the time I will use it. I do find that it seems to help make the cold go away faster. Of course, I clean my machine. I clean everything that I use daily anyway. So, with the exception of the hoses. But for some reason, I have this theory. They always want you to wash the hoses and change filters and do all this stuff with them. And I understand the filter because, there's intake from the outside air. They got no problem with changing those filters. The thing that I kind of question about is washing those hoses as often as they want. When the air is blowing through the hose and up into your nose, I'm not real sure about why they think you need to wash it so often, because you're not really blowing back into that hose. But I haven't ever had anybody explain to me why that needs to be done. They had for the longest time, they would tell you have to use distilled water with it for the humidifier. And it's pretty much a closed system. And you have to fill a little of the level, quite often. And for, I don't normally, well, I'll tell you what I do. I have a mason jar that I had sterilized. And what I do is I empty that basin of the container that has the distilled water in it into that. And then I reuse that each night and fill it as it needs to be filled. The reason I do that is distilled water has, it's removed of everything. There is no bacteria that grows in it. The only bacteria might be anything that would be introduced into it by way of, like my hand touching the side of the jar, those kind of things. But I'm pretty careful about the way that I do that. It comes from that nursing experience, doing things a certain way. So, and I've never had any issue. I always look to make sure that there isn't any kind of growth. Change out that sterilized quart mason jar each week. Don't do it on a daily basis. Change it out each week. So far, I've not had any kind of issue. Other than catching a cold from the kids at Awana. And one of the gals that's one of the table leaders started laughing. She goes, you have kids in your group that are, she said, the kids that were sick couple of weeks before were from a different school system. I said, yeah, I know, Jersey Shore. And she said, and these kids are from Rob. So, that were sick this week and got you sick. I said, yeah, I know. She goes, after a couple of years, you'll be immune to it. I said, right. I started laughing. I said, I expect you to show up with a cold pretty soon. She started laughing. She said, yeah, I will be. Normally mine come after Christmas when the kids come back. So, and she is a school teacher. She is a substitute school teacher who is working full time. That is how bad teachers are needed. And she has an Apple Watch. And what's funny is we'll be sitting there doing something and her phone will ring. She goes, it goes off from 4 a.m. till midnight. People calling to ask me to put me on schedule. Somewhere. And I said to her, but you're working full time. She goes, yeah, but I'm a part-time person working full time. And I said, that doesn't make sense. I don't know why they just don't hire you full time. And she said, well, that's because they'd have to give me benefits. Which is true. She said, but Her husband has some pretty good benefits, so she's not too worried about the benefits, right now. And like I said, she loves her job. She's good with the kids. So, but I just find it funny that her phone is constantly ringing. Usually at least 2 to 3 times an hour, with someone from a different school asking her to come in and substitute for somebody who is sick or whatever. We don't have that big a school system here. At least I didn't think it was that big, but who knows? Maybe it is. So, yeah. It's kind of interesting the way that works. I've had a lot of people, because at the university here they do education, and that is one of their majors here, and a lot of people come for it, and a lot of people want to stay in Pennsylvania, but everybody says you don't want to stay in Pennsylvania because your opportunities are less. I don't know if that's true or not, but she's found a good gig right now, so that works for her. And one of our gals, that's one of our leaders, is going to go to a job where she can't come on Wednesday nights. And we're kind of saddened by that. So she's kind of thinking, maybe yes, maybe no. She hasn't decided yet completely, but she'll let us know in the long run. But I will tell you, the other night I got to listen to a whole bunch of knock-knock jokes. And little kids love their knock-knock jokes, and you need to laugh. Even if you've heard them a million times and you don't think they're funny. Of course, their favorite one was the one, where it goes, knock, knock. You say, who's there? They say, boo. You say, boo-hoo. They say, oh, stop your crying. I heard that one at least 6 times the other night. So each time they did it, whenever, I'd say the boo-hoo, I'd say boo-hoo. And the kids thought that was funny, so we had a little bit of fun with that. I've got a hair. I don't know if it's a hair or if it's a fiber. Probably a hair. Not sure if my hair falls out while I'm crocheting or what I'm doing, but yeah. Could even be a cat hair. That is most likely what it is a cat hair. Those kitty cats are pretty free with their hair. I just changed the bed sheets and remade the bed and everything, and of course the cats are now lying on the bed because they think that means it's an invitation to go to bed. They crack me up sometimes. Of course, they watch me the entire time I'm making the bed. They're laying about the floor, and I have to step around them to keep from stepping on them. I was re-looking at some of the old videos of the cats when they were here a year ago, at first little kittens. And I'm like, oh, they're so much bigger now. Can't believe they were that. Camera died. I'm not sure where I was at, but I was telling you about the kittens, in there while I'm making the bed, and they're all over the floor have to step around them. Of course, the minute I get the bed finished, they have to get up and sniff everything. They crack me up sometimes, the way that they have to check everything that I'm doing. Izzy decided to come in here, and she's laying on the floor in front of the fireplace. I think she's enjoying the heat from it. I don't blame her, I am. Feels good. I hope I don't have to turn it off too soon, because I like it. I'm enjoying it. It's nice, to feel that little bit of that heat coming back through. I don't often turn the fireplace on. Just don't feel that I need to that often. But every once in a while it's nice to enjoy, sit, relax by it. So, it's kind of what I've been doing today, relaxing by the fire. Trying to get this blanket done. I want to be done with this blanket. I am curious, do any of you lose things? I know I have purchased about 10 of those, the chibi, I think that's what you call them, the bent needles to sew in my ends. Do you know I can only find one of them? And I have no idea where the rest of them are. Do you guys do that? At one time I always had these little bitty, my utility pouches is what I call them, that I would carry around in each project, and they all had scissors. They all had those little bitty needles, in, so I could weave in my ends, and they've all disappeared. All the pouches, all the needles. So apparently they are put up in a safe place, and I'm wondering, are they packed in those whip bags that I put in the storage, into the garage? Who knows? But it just amazes me how things go missing. And I'm the only one here besides these cats. And I know these cats do not take those kind of things, although occasionally they will play with them. But they don't normally take them. But I can't figure out what I've done with all of them. It's an absolute mystery. And even if I take and put them into my my one case that I use the most with my favorite hooks in, even that one goes missing, and I have no idea where it goes to. I have had needles come up missing, and I have no idea where they've gone to. So, it just floors me how those things just wind up disappearing here and there. Does that happen to you guys too? Do you sometimes feel like you're going nuts? And I know it's going to happen. If I run to Joann's and I pick up several of those and use coupons on them, then the minute I get home, I'll find 6 or 7 of them. That's just how it seems to work. And like I said the other day, I know I have probably 16 or more of those size 5 knitting needles, size 16 inch, that I used to use for hats all the time. I know I have a bunch of them. And I have a bunch of double pointed needles in that size too. And for some reason those go missing, even though I planned and I worked real hard to put them all in the same place. You know, I put them back after I use them. But for some reason they go missing. And I don't know what that deal is. Need to find a better organization system, I guess. Maybe I need to get a drawer. You know, one of those drawers that I can put them in. So I know exactly what's there. I don't know. Who knows what I'm going to do. I'll figure out something. Got to come up with something that works, right? Otherwise, I'll constantly be going to the store and buying more of them. Of course, that keeps them in business, so maybe there's a plus to that. Who knows? Well, guys, I think I am going to let you go for now. And I will talk with you again soon. But in the meantime, I hope that you're working on your projects and you're getting things done. I hope if you had Christmas things that you needed to get done, that you've gotten them all finished. I'm not making any Christmas presents this year. I'm just taking it easy and doing things. I will tell you, one of my focuses for next year is going to be making things for Operation Christmas Child, like hats, different types of games, different things like using the googly eyes to make little yip yips and little finger puppets, those kind of things. Making hedgehogs. And I am going to work on amigurumi. Not only the hedgehog, because that one's an easy one, but I'm going to work on some other types of amigurumi. And I think I will do a lot that are the no-sew, so that I can get a feel for those and get used to those so that you'll build that skill. Of course, then we come to the embroidery of the eyes and those kind of things with some of them. That should be interesting because I will need some tutoring on that part of it. So, of course, there are YouTube channels that do all that. So I look forward to looking at those and getting used to those things. All right, that's it for today. Remember to be kind to one another. And remember, we're going to get through this regardless of who our president is. So I'll see you again soon. Bye.